It's that time of the month again, Vita gamers. Welcome to the June update. Today I'll be checking out some of the best games coming to the PlayStation Vita in the month of June 2018, as well as recapping all the recent news and rumors surrounding everyone's favorite handheld. Firstly, it sounds like we finally have confirmation that an infamous game for the Vita was at one point in the works at Sony Bend. In an interview with Game Informer about their new game Days Gone, game director Jeff Ross let it slip that after finishing up development on Uncharted Golden Abyss, the team was kicking around some ideas for a brand new Infamous title. However, the conversation quickly steered back towards Days Gone. We'd previously heard rumors on sites like Reddit that both a brand new Infamous game and a sequel to Uncharted Golden Abyss had both been cancelled by Sony, but it sounds like we now know for sure that at least one of those projects was at one point a reality. Meanwhile, May 22nd marked the long-awaited launch of Stardew Valley on the Vita, though Sony hasn't done the best job of letting gamers know. The farming RPG, which is arguably the biggest new release on the Vita in months, was nowhere to be found under the latest tab on the UK PlayStation Store. The same could be said for Valhalla, another somewhat prominent Vita game that Sony failed to effectively showcase on the Vita's virtual marketplace. Both titles could, of course, be found through a simple search, but this kind of neglect for new releases on the system shows an unfortunate lack of effort on Sony's part. Which brings us to the biggest Vita news story of the month. After roughly 6.5 years on the market, Sony has begun the process of ceasing all physical Vita game production in the US and Europe, an effort they plan to carry out by the close of fiscal year 2018. On the bright side, Sony does intend on continuing production in Japan until 2020. As the PS4 slowly approaches the finish line and the Nintendo Switch continues to dominate the handheld market, we're continuing to see the Vita slowly get phased out. But while things may seem dire, let's not forget that there are still many great games coming to the system in 2018 and beyond. Now that we've covered all the major news stories, let's take a look at some of the best games coming to the Vita in the month of June 2018. Kicking off our list this month is Riddled Corpses EX. This arcade-style twin-stick shooter is a remaster of the original Riddled Corpses, released on Steam back in 2015. This new version of the game boasts a brand new soundtrack, online leaderboards, and a challenging platinum for trophy hunters to work towards. The grinding elements of the original game have supposedly been balanced for this new release, and character stats have been added to increase the player's incentive to unlock and play the game with every character. The game's engine has also been modified to now run at 60 frames per second. Riddled Corpses EX will be a cross-buy title between PS4 and Vita, and the game will also be compatible with PlayStation TV. The game launches digitally on June 5th in both the US and Europe. Next up, we have Fate Extrella Link, the sequel to The Umbral Star, a solid Vita RPG that released back in 2016. The game's story continues where its predecessor left off, with three factions vying for control over two legendary items that will determine the fate of humanity. Fate Extrella Link features improved visuals and refined battle mechanics, with the new multiplayer mode featuring 4v4 online battles. Additionally, the amount of playable characters in the game has now been increased to 16, with 10 legendary heroes being added to the game's roster. The game, along with the $130 Premium Limited Edition, will launch in Japan on June 7th. The 2017 side-scroller shoot-'em-up Super Hydora is also coming to the Vita this month. In Super Hydora, prepare to take on the Marupchian Menace as the most lethal pilot in the galaxy across 21 levels. In addition to single-player, the game also features a multiplayer mode, as well as the Robot Chase minigame. Super Hydora releases on June 8th under the Limited Run banner, meaning Vita collectors will want to hop on this title before it's no longer in stock. Muv-Luv and its 2006 successor, Muv-Luv Alternative, will also be releasing on the system this month in the wake of a successful Kickstarter campaign. What starts out as a romance quickly turns into a mix of the sci-fi and mecha genres, bundling in parallel universes and time travel as well. Both games will launch both physically and digitally on the Vita in Europe on June 8th. June also marks the release of God Wars Great War of Japanese Mythology, a repackaging of the 2016 Vita RPG God Wars Future Past. This new version of the original game features new battle stages, extra playable characters, and a brand new scenario to play through. The game launches both digitally and on retail on June 14th in Japan, with a limited edition also available for collectors. Next up we have Musings, a hardcore rhythm game with a catalog of over 50 songs to choose from. The game features a mix of different genres for all different tastes, and each track is accompanied by a unique artistic representation. The Vita has been home to some excellent rhythm games over the years, dating back to Lumina's Electronic Symphony back in 2012, so I'm excited to see the genre continuing to grow on the system in 2018. You can pick up Musings digitally in the US on June 19th. Next, we have the action-adventure RPG The Lost Child. The game follows an occult journalist who's begun to investigate a series of mysterious suicides occurring in Tokyo. During his investigation, he encounters a girl who bestows upon him the ability to capture celestial creatures called astrals. From what I've gathered, The Lost Child is something of a darker spin on Pokemon, mixing in the mechanics of collecting and evolving creatures with a much more darker narrative. If you live in either the US or Europe, then you can pick up The Lost Child digitally on June 19th and June 22nd respectively. Which at last brings us to the biggest Vita game of the month, the long-awaited Rainbow Skies. The sequel to the beloved 2012 Vita RPG Rainbow Moon, the release of Rainbow Skies has been delayed for years, with the game originally slated for a 2014 release. This sequel boasts a brand new story to experience, as well as a suite of new game mechanics and characters. The game will run at a buttery smooth 60 frames per second, and features both cross-save and cross-buy compatibility with the PS4 and PS3 versions of the game. After 5 years of development, Rainbow Skies will at last launch digitally on the Vita on June 26th in the US, with a June 27th launch in Europe. And that wraps up the June update. After a pretty divisive May, I think Western Vita gamers will agree this month is a marked improvement, with Rainbow Skies standing out as a potential Vita Game of the Year contender. For all things PlayStation, stay tuned. Until next time, this has been Fixation.